Hello and welcome to Screen Views. I'm Dave.
I'm James.
And this is the weekly podcast where we give our views on a film and TV show.
Each episode is unscripted, unedited, so anything can happen. Listeners should be aware that we do include spoilers, so feel free to fast forward, rewind, or simply buckle up and enjoy a somewhat coherent conversation.
Our podcast is based on the idea that there's no such thing as a bad movie. Therefore, for every review, we'll give a recommendation instead of a rating.
But first up, we're going to have a quick discussion about what we talked about last week to see if our opinions have changed. And we are rolling.
Lift off.
Boom. Done.
Hello.
So we're back. So it's been a while.
Is it? Well, it feels
Yeah.
like it's, for TV,
Yeah.
Strand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
feels like a while.
we're back, baby.
But we've been hitting the film, hitting the mini-sodes.
Yeah, I've actually been really
Yeah.
proud by how much TV I've consumed. I'm a guy who doesn't really watch that much TV.
Yeah.
As I said doing this podcast, I've just been engulfing it.
Yeah.
So,
We need to do more. Always
Yeah.
more, James.
I'm not sure if I could. I'm
More,
really
more,
proud
more.
this week. This week I have just pushed it to the max,
Yeah.
and I finished the last episode about an hour ago.
Right.
Yeah,
Cool. But before we talk about that, James, we
Yeah,
need to
last
see
week.
if our opinions have changed from Westworld.
People are still buzzing around it.
Really?
Still not watched the next episode.
Season 2.
Yeah,
There's still buzz.
I think there's still buzz.
How
Yeah.
has the buzz not been killed?
Well, I'm on the YouTube community, and I'm always seeing people react to stuff, and I watch them certain reactions, but I can see they get excited over the episode, and there's probably still things. And from the thumbnails, I'm getting loads of spoilers, so one of our predictions is probably going to come true.
Yeah, well, there's it's obviously going in a certain direction. I think I can probably guess about that, but we'll need to avoid spoilers because this is the re-review section. It's funny actually talking about buzz other people. I had a quick shimmy on IMDb and I scrolled to the review section. I don't normally look at that section on the IMDb bit, partly because of spoilers if I haven't seen stuff, or partly because I don't know how much to trust user reviews.
Yeah.
The first review is literally how I would sum up Westworld, which was season 1 was great, season 2 absolute atrocious. Don't watch it.
Well, season 1 was really interesting because it didn't make repetition boring.
Yeah,
Could have easily made repetition boring, but it didn't.
yeah,
And season 2 is all about adding new elements, and like 3 or 4 episodes in, there's so many new elements, and it's sort of you aren't really expanding on these elements. You're just introducing them and letting them wait for later on, and you're just planting stories. When in the first one, you weren't planting stories.
And you've actually not seen the episode where they do bring the repetition sort of back in a little bit.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think it's done in that in a very clever way. And then towards the end of the episode, it's again new concepts, new things. It's like they're trying to do sort of expansive, multi-stranded Game of Thrones techniques, but not really seeing it through in a way that's good or interesting. For me, I just thought, kill off some characters, introduce some new characters, get me caring about new people, new backstories. Don't keep going over the same ground, and maybe mix it up a little bit, or move away from the Western a bit more. But that's, I suggested that to Rach, and she wasn't loving that idea. So maybe I'm just alone in that subjective opinion of I want to see the colonial sort of India hunters sort of era. I want to see Shogun, Japan. I want to see similar things in but different worlds. I don't know. Something needed to change for me, and
they've done a really poor job at actually establishing how many worlds there are and exactly establishing how big this place is. Because Anthony Hopkins was only really involved in the Westworld. So is he just directly involved in Westworld, or was he part of the foundation that built it all, but he's just focusing on the Westworld?
Yeah.
Because it's not really clear.
Yeah.
Because why is he obsessed with Westworld if he was part of creating all of it?
I suppose. So a bit of a spoiler alert for somebody who hasn't seen season 1, that there's going to be different worlds in season 2.
Oh, sorry.
I think that was my fault. But it's not that much of a spoiler, is it?
Season 2 now, so it's sort of like if you haven't even started watching it.
But I think my advice would be go back, watch season 1, walk away satisfied that you've seen a complete story from start to finish that is really, really, really good.
And if you want to watch the second season, I'll just watch the first season again, and you'll still have to be just as enjoyable. So nothing really more to say about that from my end.
No, I think let's move on.
Yeah.
So this week we're looking at The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
So for those who are listening to this and they're not aware of The Handmaid's Tale, it's based on a book with the same title by Margaret Atwood. And it's a sort of futuristic dystopian world where fertility is essentially ended and people can't have children anymore apart from a select few. And so a political company / power who are very religious orientated take over, and they start to manipulate people into I think believing in God again and old values, but they do that in a very oppressive way, using a lot of violence and guns. That a fair summary? Somebody who'd not seen it?
It's someone who hasn't seen it, it's really hard to actually. You say futuristic, but there's so many elements of it. You keep watching this. When you're watching this show, you'll just forget when this is set.
Yeah, well,
and it's like it's really interesting.
Yeah, it is quite interesting because I think the original book was written in the 80s, so the futuristic place was like now. I think. I've not read the book, so I'm not an expert.
No.
But I'm just sort of going through what I've picked up from Rach, my partner, and we've been sort of like watching it together, and I've been asking a few questions here and there. I mean, what I quite like is that for some of it, especially the first season, they continue with the kind of 80s. There's like a lot of 80s touches in there, which kind of like for a while I was thinking, oh, is this set in the 80s? But then you see people they've got mobile phones, and I think the aunt mentions by 2015 there was very few babies being born. So I think they've gone with a kind of like it's not that far away from where we are now as a society, because all the technology that you see throughout it is very similar to what we have now. There's no like futuristic kind of technology so it's not science fiction.
It's like a stone throw. If someone said it's set next year, if someone said these events happen next year, you'd be like okay, because it comes out of nowhere. And the flashback scenes just seem like present day.
Yeah.
So
it's definitely our time. And like, I think it's like you say, you could see this happening. I mean, what I find fascinating about the sort of premise of the show is that the book was written like sort of 40 years ago now. Which seems insane to me. Somebody who was like born in the 80s, like that concept in itself is like weird. For me, I'm still the 80s is still 20 years ago.
Yeah, I was literally just thinking that.
Like, and it's so like in my head that hurts my brain. Yeah. But it's interesting how the themes and the topics and the situation feels very current. And that's what I really like about this show, is they've done a really, really good job of sort of blending that idea that this could happen at any point in society, in the world, in society, if things start to break down in terms of like produce and food supplies, fertility, all of these sort of things that happen, how quickly things could change and how quickly things can be put into place. And what is fascinating about this show is kind of like when we're looking at sort of politically what's going on in this country and in America, like, it's a really, really fascinating time to think about, well, how quickly could a country descend into a dictatorial regime, similar to like what happened in Nazi Germany. So I think there's a lot of sort of references, which again is interesting in terms of history, because the book was again written in the 80s, which was like 40 years on from World War II. So within the span of, so you've got 40 years either side of this book being written, and still the contents of the show in this book are still very, very relevant at all three of those times in history. So it just does sort of prove how much history is kind of repetitive. But I think what's really, really scary and intense about this show is the fact that you can sort of see it happening, and if far right people get into positions of power, how quickly the law can change, how quickly rules can change, how quickly society can change. And that for me makes it quite intense and scary. I think there's a lot of other things that the show does to make it those things, but I think as a setup, you're looking at a dystopian world where people are returning to old values in order to try and increase fertility, but they're doing it using sort of guns and violence and oppression, especially of women. So it's very interesting, I think.
Well, what I like about it is like it's a dystopian town, and then you think a dystopian city, then a dystopian country, and like slowly and slowly it's branding it. It's going further out, and so I think because that's the first couple of episodes, you're only really focusing on that town. That's it.
Yeah.
And then you see more of the flashbacks, and then you're learning about America, and then you're looking at like actually other countries having issues as well, and how they're focusing on it, and it's and it's because the whole world's different. They could go anywhere. They could go to, you could either go to Canada or go to Mexico, and so that's the choice they made, went to Canada. But I think if this gets like a third season, I reckon we might see a little bit of Mexico in there and crossing that the south.
Yeah, well, we've already seen the trade episode, haven't we? Where there's the trade delegates and how other countries are so desperate to have children that they're looking at how this country is doing it successfully. Yeah,
I mean,
but they're not necessarily aware of what is going on internally. But even then, when a fascinating part of that episode is when they are made aware, they still sort of don't care, because this issue of fertility has become so important for the sort of survival of the human race.
The idea is disgraceful, but the execution works. I mean, once you can see the execution, once you can see it working, how can you argue with results? Sometimes,
well, you
I'm
said
sure, like
Hitler and
but you can sort of understand. I can fully understand them being, because at first they didn't do this, and it's not like the Handmaid system is a secret. But they've gone to in desperation, and they're thinking, well, it works, and so
yeah.
Well,
and what I think this show does a good job of is giving you a three-dimensional insight into how a dictatorship would work.
Yeah,
where sort of like, there's characters who seemingly are very embedded into this world. So the Fred character, he's a commander, he's very high up within this organization, but you start to find as it goes through that he sort of has his vices, and he wants to, he's struggling to leave those behind in this new oppressive world that he's essentially like helped to create, and and so he's not comfortable within the system that he's helped create, and I think that's interesting that they explore that as well.
Everybody has struggles, and like you first go into it just thinking just the handmaidens have struggles, and by all means they have the worst of the struggles.
Pretty
but
much.
Then you are sort of looked into each piece perspective of view, even like the aunt Agatha, Aunt Lydia. Even her character, which you just have one thought of at first, but they're showing hints of
sort of like the Janine.
She does
her sort of relationship with Janine sort of becomes. She has this kind of like mother, hood,
and she's able to think like the handmaidens, and able to actually understand how they feel. And it's just seeping a little bit, and I'm really looking forward to her flashback episode. Really interesting.
Yeah.
I think they
see how she became an aunt.
Yeah, because they are hinting. There's some people who don't really hint that much, and I think the wife of Fred, I don't really like the way her character's portrayed.
Serena.
Yeah, I don't really say
the commander's wife.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. The way I don't. Even though I shouldn't feel sorry for her, I don't fully connect with how she feels. I don't think they portrayed her very well. I'm only saying that in comparison to so many other characters.
Yeah,
how they've shown different shades.
I think with her character, we've not kind of got to grips with what she's about yet, because she obviously had a very clear perspective at one point, which the Mexican delegate talks about, and then that kind of obviously there was a massive shift at some point, because it sounds like she was some sort of feminist.
Yeah.
Unless I misunderstood.
No, she wrote all these feminist books and
then suddenly she's helped to create this system with the commander as well. And there's references to that. So I think we've not really had a full backstory of her yet. So maybe there's more to come with her. But I sort of agree. It's very difficult to sort of. Well, I mean, it's very difficult to connect with the commander and the people behind Gilead, because they're just they're like oppressive dictator, right-winged Nazis in a way, but and they're using religion in quite a big way to manipulate people.
They do a fantastic job with Aunt Lydia, and sort of hinting and sort of like suggesting and sort of like, and just the conflict in her mind. You really seeing it, and like she is strict.
I know what you mean.
They do such a fantastic job. It's the case with anything. You do something great with one character, if you don't do the same with other characters, it's going to show. So I think it's just because I really like the way they've treated that character.
Yeah.
I think they've done that really well. And
I think one thing that...
Sorry, I keep making noises.
Every week. One thing that I do think that they do really well is blend the flashbacks into the... so giving enough backstory, but not too much backstory.
Yeah.
Apart from maybe one episode, the Luke episode in season 1, where they focused mainly on him. I didn't enjoy that episode so much. I think because it took us far away from... Because they were like flashbacks within a flashback, if that makes sense. Because we were going back to see how he sort of survives, but also within that we were sort of seeing flashback. So it didn't... I don't know. As an episode, I think it was it felt like a break from the Handmaid storyline that I didn't want.
Yeah.
And I get why they did it. I think they needed to sort of do something with his character.
Yeah.
Especially if he's gonna come into it a bit more. But what I didn't enjoy it, and that might just be a subjective thing.
Yeah.
But
No, I totally agree with you. It just felt like we need to set this up. We need to fill in this gap.
Yeah.
And it's just like it was like a filler episode.
Yeah.
And I've never been shot before, and I don't know if that was a good portrayal of someone being shot or a bad portrayal of someone being shot. I don't know. I know if I stub my toe, I'm like, ah. So if someone shot me, I don't know, and no one's there to see me, I'm gonna be blubbering. I'm gonna be like, if no one's there to see me, I don't have to act like look like I'm being brave. I ain't gonna look brave. By all means, I'm gonna walk different locations. Well, I'm gonna be moping all the way. So I don't know if that's a good portrayal of being shot and being hurt or not. But I know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I think I know what you mean, because I think it was like, I'm really, really hurt. Now I'm gonna jump over this fence and I'm totally fine.
Yeah.
Or I'm hurt again. I'm gonna look around. Now I'm gonna walk 16 miles to the next town and I'm not hurt. Yeah, I do. There was a bit of that going on, I think, which is I think it's fine. It's all because if you like, realistically, he probably would have died in the ambulance, but that wouldn't make much of a story.
No.
I mean, what
the ambulance shot was really good and a really good use of budget as well. I mean, you don't have the money to have like a whole vehicle going like rolling over, crashing. So we'll do this instead.
I thought that was really, really good actually. I mean, in terms of the cinematography, I would like to talk about that because I do think so. A lot of what this show is about creating this like intense feel, and I think I'm sure you've picked up on this, James, where what they do really well is they use quite unusual framing. So a lot of the time they reduce the amount of talking space that a character has on the screen, and what I mean by that, to any listeners that are not sure what I mean, it's basically where, like, normally you'd give a natural talking space from the character's mouth to the edge of the screen on the opposite side. So if I'm facing to the right, I've got talking space and it gives natural talking space. But what they'll do with this is they'll quite often put somebody's nose quite close to the frame, or they'll just frame it in a way that is slightly odd or awkward, and it just really adds to the intensity. And it adds to this feeling of being claustrophobic. Have you seen Mr. Robot on Amazon?
First season?
Yeah, they do it a lot in that as well. It's a very similar technique where you're seeing like quite a lot of medium close-ups, a lot of close-ups, which also draws the intensity. But then on top of that, you've got these kind of unusually framed shots that don't necessarily look natural, and I think if you don't notice it, you don't sort of see it, but it's sort of there. And what I like about it is that it's quite subtle, and they don't overuse it. They don't like to the point where it becomes distracting. It's there to sort of support the narrative. And I think they made some really, really good choices in terms of how to construct a scene together. And so the episode about when Serena gives her a gift about with the dancer in the box. I'm sure they've got a proper name, haven't they?
Music box.
Yeah. So like a music box, and then at the end of that episode, she talks about how she's not going to be the little dancer in the box, and they just do this like kind of slow tracking out shot, and she's sat in a cupboard and it just slowly tracks back, and the frame puts her in a box, but at the same time she's saying, I'm not going to be in a box. I'm not going to I'm not going to be controlled in the same way as the dancer in the music box.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, she's saying that, but at the same time she's very much trapped within a box. So it's really clever choices of shots like that really stand out for me. And like I say, that unusual framing works really well to add to the claustrophobic sort of intense feel of the show, which I really like.
I didn't really notice that. I'll have to keep an eye out for that. I noticed the elements of symmetry, especially towards the end of the series. It had some really nice symmetrical shots. There's a really nice overhead shot of all the girls like in a circle, and there's like, and also when people are walking, there's they very often have like symmetry within the frame.
Yeah, those shots are like
nice.
Really well done, especially when they've got the handmaids, like you say, walking or moving into position. Yeah, they use a lot of some really clever. Like there's a really nice God's eye view shot in the start of the second series where they're in the rain.
Yeah,
they're holding. Yeah, that was really well done as well.
Second season so far, lighting wise, I think it's been really beautiful. Really interesting choices, and really enjoyed the restriction of light and going into more darkness. And the second season is definitely more dark in terms of like lighting wise, which I've kind of liked.
Yeah.
In terms of the only other show which has done this to me, one thing gets me excited about this show. The other show that does this to me is Legion. Is what's the end song going to be? Because the end song in this series is because you fool yourself into thinking, it's like it's really old, this show, like in terms of like where.
Well, that's what I mean about keeping that 80s vibe. But then they they were something different.
It's like, whoa, cool.
Yeah,
and you think, of course, like this music is okay because they know this music, and I really liked the soundtrack. I thought it was really good. I'm not really as much of a fan of this show as I feel like loads of other people are. I mean, I'm watching it; it's okay, but I'm not really sure if I'm not eager to watch the next. I think what they do so well is every episode they round it off, and like in fact, at the end of the first season, which I commend them for this, really commend them. Sometimes when you watch a show and you love it, and you realise they haven't made a second season, you're thinking, well, why'd you leave like that? And like so big spoiler here. So at the end of the first season, she literally says, "I don't know if this is the end or if it's going to be the start of the beginning." Yeah. All I know is this. I just felt like that was sort of a message to say, we don't know if we're coming back, but like I don't know. I felt like that was really respectful.
I think it's respectful to the book. Yeah. Because the book ends that way. Apparently.
Because after started watching the second season and the first episode. And then he trick him into thinking they're gonna get hung. Like Hollywood or someone who's thinking about the money, thinking about everything, would have ended it there. So just before they're getting hung, end of the first season, thinking, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Oh my god! But I thought like, wow, okay, because that's only like 5 minutes into only like 5 to 10 minutes into like the
second season.
Thinking, oh wow, you could have ended the season with that and tried to make everybody go crazy, but no, you didn't. You respected the audience, respected your audience enough to say, "I'm gonna come back." You respected the book. I felt like well done to them.
Yeah, because I was really worried, like because the first season I thought was amazing. Like I love the show. Like I think it's really really good on so many different levels, especially what I was talking about at the start of this show about how people in positions of power, not naming names, might make changes to laws in a big country across the sea from us that would change society in quite a profound way. So I think that
has lots of pies.
Are you just going to stereotype Americans now?
I never said America. Like, whoa. I'm
the one who's dropped the bomb. All right, Mr. Trump, if you're listening to this, don't change the law. I think we're not that desperate yet, Mr. Trump.
I've not got political at all.
It's fine. I've gone there, James. Yeah. It's fine. I'm there. I've said it.
Good.
Yeah. So I really like that aspect of it, like how it's current, and I do like how the first season, from talking to Rach, stays true to the book in lots of ways. I think it sounds like it's quite different in the sense that it's all a monologue.
Okay.
So it's all from the Handmaid's point of view. And what they don't do in this show that happens in the book is that you hear lots of different scenarios. So like when she sleeps with Nick, the first time that it's like really passionate, really like going for it.
Yeah.
I think hear different scenarios of that, but you don't know which one is quite the real scenario. So she plays out a lot of stuff in her head because she's got all of this time to sort of fantasize and think about things. So they don't do that in the series, which I think is the right choice, but at the same time stay quite true to the book in terms of narrative and characters and events.
A bit quite delicate, but does Nick finish the first time he's with her?
That got quite personal. I think so. Which time are you talking about?
The first time, so
when Serena's watching.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I started to rethink it, and because she sort of signals him. She pushes. She does something to his arm, and then he stops. And then later on in the evening, she goes back there.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
And so maybe it was like she wasn't gonna do this out of. It was like she's gonna make as many choices as she can. She could stop this now, but she's gonna go. That would make sense because then it's more about choice, but also that he's maybe respecting. Yeah,
her,
the fact that he stopped
in a way that the commander sort of wouldn't.
Yeah,
I guess. But I didn't.
Maybe
it's
the same episode because she told the commander to stop one time because the commander was touching her leg. I'll have to find out the episode order. So maybe she gave him restrictions and he did not follow, and then she gave Nick restrictions and Nick did follow, and maybe that's why Nick is more valued because.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my sort of thing, I think, is that she's grasping at any sort of control that she can get in her like small existence.
Yeah,
because so much is controlled for her. It becomes about choice and not being raped. Once a month, and it also becomes about control. Like, how can she control these men in her life? To get them to do what she wants or what she needs. And I think the difference is that we're sort of led to believe that she's now in this relationship with Nick, and it is become quite passionate. And I think there's that. A prominent conversation is when she talks to the commander, and the commander says, they're talking about, what is there to live for? And she says something like love, and he dismisses that idea as a concept. And he's just like
a dick. That's right.
It's okay. We'll just put tick on the explicit for this week. I've just actually, on the podcast rating, I've just every week now I've just ticked explicit just to like.
It's only twice, I think.
I can't be bothered to listen back.
Yeah.
Sorry, I haven't got the time to listen back to see if we swear or not.
Now,
so
you use any language.
Yeah. Well, we've said Trump. Is that a swear word yet?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
Oh.
Yeah. So, what else? The pregnancy, the birth was really interesting because it got me confused at first. Because when so basically all the handmaidens come into the big grand building, and they're watching this woman, and she's clearly going through labour, and the nurses all around her and treating her well and patting her, and then you go to the next room, there's another woman, she's going in labour. And it took me until the very last second did I realize what was going on. In terms of there's only one real like birth happening.
Yeah, well, I think that's all part of the idea that the, you know, if God flows through them together and all of.
But even the chair as well, like the birthing chair has two seats.
It's just weird and creepy. But that's what the whole Gilead thing is about, isn't it? It's about this weird going back to old values, but creating these sort of ceremonies that become meaningful to the families.
But when they were actually, Fred was actually discussing creating these ceremonies, like creating these rituals. Like, we're not going to call them rituals; we'll call them like ceremonies. Like, that's a good idea. Good idea. It's so even though he's living it, you can tell he's created it. He's like
he
knows,
which makes it so fucked up. I said the F word.
Yeah,
I said it, James.
You're worse than me.
I don't care.
I said like I'm talking about like a part of a male body. It's not a swear word. If you're describing it, it's a real name. Oh,
okay.
No, actually, no. Yeah.
We don't need to get into technicalities around that, James. We'll move on.
I'll probably watch 2 more episodes before I work out if I want to continue watching it. I'm glad I've seen the first season, and I've sort of enjoyed the second season.
Oh man, James!
But
I can't get enough. Like, I know it's really weird because it's so like depressing and so difficult to watch, but I just want more. Like, and I was really worried. So, sorry, I think I was going to say this point, and we went off on a massive tangent. But so you were talking about the ending of the first season, and I was really worried because moving into the second season, you're now in uncharted territory.
Yeah.
The book is no longer there as a reference point. So I was really, really worried for season 2 as to where they were going to take it. In a similar way that kind of Westworld is gone, suddenly you're out of the small world that the characters are in for the first season and you're trying to expand it into this wider world. And what they've done so far is that they have expanded it, but they like retract it and then expand it again, and then you think that it's going to get really expansive, and then they retract it, and so they're doing a good job, I think, of the second season in that regard. And I think also they're keeping the intensity up. The oppressiveness is there. The threat is sort of constant. And we're getting to see some interesting locations. Like there's a lot of talk of the colonies in the first season, and now we're getting to see what the colonies are about. That's quite interesting, I think. In
terms of like the Luke episode, I think pretty much the whole episode was on him.
Yeah.
But now in the second season, they are intercutting. They are episodes on other people, but they're still cutting back to.
Yes, which I think is
it up a little bit,
I think that's the right choice, because then it doesn't seem like too focused on one character, but also you're not getting too far removed from that character, which I think is good. I think there's sorry, just while I'm thinking about it, I think what they've also done really well is brought in the kind of feminist themes. So what is very interesting is how important the Moira character is in terms of the friendship between them. We're getting to see some stuff about her mum and her relationship with her mum.
That was really interesting.
Obviously it's I think it's really like it's just really interesting to watch these kind of things playing out. And what I do like is that they do have quite a few female directors on the series as well that like sort of stand out. I mean, one name that really stood out for me was Floria Sigismondi.
Okay.
So she's done a couple of episodes, I think. She directed the Runaways biopic. I don't know if you've seen that. It's a film
Okay.
about a girl band called the Runaways.
Gotcha. No, I haven't seen it.
And she's directed like quite a few famous music videos, I think, as well. So I'm quite a big fan of her. And then there's a few others. Kate Dennis, who's done some of the Glow.
Okay, cool.
Glamorous Ladies of Wrestling. So they're obviously making some bold choices, I think, in terms of their who they're getting to work on the series and like direct and things.
I wish it gripped me some more. To be honest, I know why everybody's going on about it. Feeling it's amazing, but I'm like thinking, I'll probably watch another couple of episodes, but I don't want to really be eager to go back.
Yeah,
I want to watch some 800 words, but
yeah,
but I can't.
I think this is one show where I wouldn't fall back on. I mean, maybe I'd watch 800 words after one of these episodes. Maybe I think I was talking to this to a friend about this concept where I don't know if you do this, but if I watch like a really depressing film or a really hard-hitting film or a horror film, quite often I'll need something to stick on afterwards that's like a comedy, just to like get me out of the vibe of the film that I've just, or TV show that I've just seen. I don't know if
like a whiskey chaser. That. So like I'll have that drink and I'll float up with a shot.
Yeah, although it's more like less of a whiskey chaser. Yeah, but the chaser would be like a cherry flavoured, something really, really sweet, like Baileys or something like that, just to just to take the edge off.
I don't just go to bed and cry. It's but I don't do.
Oh no! Don't do that, James. Watch an episode of Friends.
Oh no, that'll make me cry.
Oh really? You're not a fan?
I used to love Friends, but now whenever I see an episode and it's just like.
Yeah, it's just a rehashing of something else. But then I already sort of think that about the Big Bang Theory, that it's sort of like.
Don't like the Big Bang Theory.
No, that's what I mean. It's it's so sort of culturally significant and people love it so much. You're just
I'm so
like
used
overkill.
To people like reacting to when I say like I don't like the Big Bang Theory. I even preempted you with I don't like the Big Bang Theory. I got my shoulders back.
Yeah,
I look really vulnerable.
Ready
like, please
for
don't hurt me.
Yeah. But it's a similar sort of thing to when you say you haven't seen Game of Thrones. Yeah.
I said it with pride. So,
yeah. You say it with pride, and then people do actually hit you.
Yeah, they get.
Okay, so is there anything else that we need to discuss about the show or about the characters before we move on to a recommendation?
No.
No.
If everybody who you think I like the way they touch upon everybody. Every single person who you think is sort of like they put in completely one category of like bad or good. They do dive into it a little bit and they show you greys of all people, even though there's clearly the handmaidens are in an awful situation. They do sort of look at everybody's character
and the complicity within the
even the main character. I mean, in terms of like how she got together with Luke, her boyfriend, like he wasn't single, and it's sort of like down they had an affair, and what's the story there? Like,
well, and they're also exploring the complicity in terms of her relationship with her mum, isn't it? Because her mum was a very big activist person who I wonder whether she's going to be dead, or my theory on the mother character is she's either going to be dead or head of Mayday.
Yeah,
that's my.
I mean,
sort of
the latest episode I thought was interesting because it felt like it was mourning the living. It's like she didn't think her mum was dead, but she's mourning the fact that she might be alive
in the colonies
in this situation.
And what I think was interesting was that she's starting to sort of understand her mum a bit more, and the choices that her mum made were not so as like horrible as she sort of thought. Perhaps horrible is maybe not the right word, but how she was perhaps complicit within, allowing Gilead to take control.
I mean, we're all really complicit. I mean, look at everybody's general views on terms and conditions. Most people just skip to the end and just accept. And
because you have no choice, because you want whatever that thing is providing, so you want access. So you click accept, continue. And it's almost like people are doing that in physical form, especially when you see the that family in the most recent episode. You really see that how the lives of people are if they have sort of accepted the the new society.
But on a political level as well.
Yeah,
so,
just how little we are activists and how we are almost like backseat activists, where we're quite happy to talk about like problems and issues that we're having at home or at work, but what do we actually do about it? Do we actually go out into the world and try and make a positive change? Quite a lot of the time I'd be complicit in that, and it's you sort of, and I think that's interesting that they've sort of brought that into the show. I just love it. I just love the themes, the ideas, how they're executing it. It's a really good show for me, I think, subjectively. I'm really loving it.
I'm going to give another 2 episodes, and if I still feel the same, I might just put it down, go pick up again later on. But it doesn't have that. I need to know what's happened.
Yeah, is that because it's not about superheroes?
No. I just don't really. I don't care enough to need to know what happens to them. I can find out what happens to them, but I don't really care about Mayday. I don't really care about
June.
And like what's happening to her now. I don't really care about Luke that much. I really. Every show is interesting, and it's only interesting when I'm watching it. But I never look forward to that to it being interesting. I could watch a show and it'd be boring, and it will surprise me.
Okay.
So every week it sort of interests me and to pick it up again.
Right. So I guess then, who would you, based on that information, who would you recommend this show? Because obviously I'm saying I love it. I want everybody to watch it because I love it. But who would you?
It's very consistent, and it's very consistent, and it is very interesting the amount of things they bring up with it. It's really, there's so many elements to it. I think everybody should give it at least a go once. It's not a thriller. It's not like a lot of action. It's a very character-driven story. So if you like character-driven stuff, that alone is enough for you to say, "I'm going to give this a go. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it." And I think that's good. If you like Orange is the New Black, I think you'll like this. It's not the same whatsoever, but in terms of it's about a communal spirit. A lot of what I like about Orange is the New Black, as the world looks at prisoners differently to how they look themselves, and the way the handmaidens react to each other is a lot different to how everybody else reacts to the handmaidens. And so I feel like they're prisoners. They are actually prisoners in that society. So, and I think with Orange is the New Black as well, every now and again they dive into different characters and on this character's point of view and this character's point of view, even though there's one main character, and also the main character in Orange is the New Black seems to inspire people, and that's what this character does. June does in this show, even though June does it in a more successful way because June doesn't realize how June often doesn't appreciate how much she is looked upon by the other handmaidens, because it is a very hushed society and no one wants to talk to each other. But I thought it was quite interesting when people do start to follow her.
Yeah,
because no one wants to admit they want to follow her.
But I thought that was really well done though, because the aunt sat her down and literally said, well, you took this risk, but you only took it when you knew that there was going to be no repercussions to you because you were pregnant. And what I thought was interesting about that was that when in the first season, when it happens, you think, yeah, that's she does it because she was the only one who could do it because she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And then, but then if you look at it from the aunt's point of view, which is, you know, well, you only did it because you knew nothing was going to happen to you. So now I'm going to make these people's lives like even more horrible, and it's your fault. It's just really, really well done. So good. I would recommend this show for anyone who likes drama, because, like you say, it's very character driven.
Yeah.
Anyone who likes dystopian stories, very good for that. Anyone who's sort of interested in regimes and how dictatorships work. Anyone who's interested in shows that have an interesting connection to like politics and what is happening in the world at the moment. Obviously, you know, there's no fertility issues that we're aware of at the moment. But you know, it's a very believable world. It's not like a science fiction. So it's kind of like, I mean, I'd probably describe it as a futuristic drama. And I recommend it for anyone who likes those sorts of things. I wasn't sure where you were going with the Orange is the New Black thing, but you know, it makes sense what you were saying about the characters. I think anybody who's interested in exploring sort of feminism and wants strong female characters. I mean, we've not even spoken about Elizabeth Moss, who plays June. I mean, I think she's incredible in this. And the bridge episode was really well done. And I thought that was
she
really
can really
good.
act through her eyes. She doesn't need dialogue, which is kind of like, it's just great for protagonists, and that when the protagonist can't speak in a scene, to be able to actually speak with her eyes is kind of cool. Yeah,
so I think if you want, if you like female-driven casts, you know, there's only really like Nick and Fred.
Luke, so 3 characters.
And so very female-driven. I think it's got some interesting things to say. I thought season 2 might put me off, but it's not so far. I think it's held up, and so I think keep going with it. And I hope that people love it as much as I do.
I hope people love it more than me.
Well, I mean, it's a show that's taking a few risks. And what is in, you know, like I said at the start of this review, is that I really do find it fascinating that it's taking risks, but at the same time, it's making a political statement that is true today as it was when the book was written, and that really fascinates me. And I think it's so interesting, like getting into the inner workings of a sort of organisation, and how, you know, you can see that. You know, I mean, in my head, there's a lot of connections to kind of like Victorian society and how oppressive it was for females at one time in history, and then that mixed in with a Nazi style regime is a very clever way of putting two different aspects of like history and politics into the mix together. It's really, really clever, you know. But when you've got a base material that's really good, you know, it sort of helps.
I'll give 2 more episodes, episodes before I'll decide whether to continue or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna give it There's many episodes. I think there might be a season 3 already in the mix.
Possibly.
So,
the buzz in this is high. I'm well aware of that.
I'm going is by I saw an IMDb button that had a 3. You know, when they list the seasons, how many seasons there are. There was a 3 there, so I'm guessing it was being funding. Who did you say this show was made by, James?
Yeah, so I went on IMDb and it says it's a Hulu original, and Hulu is a big streaming channel in America. Yeah, so a bit like Amazon Prime and Netflix here. America has Hulu. Yeah, and so 2 new Netflix shows. Sorry, 2 new Marvel shows. Because apparently Marvel at the moment have got TV shows on ABC, on Netflix, and now Hulu's got in on the game. And so Hulu have released a series called The Runaways, which is not the same.
As the Florian Singers Wonder, yeah.
And they've just produced a TV series called Cloak and Dagger, which is another superhero.
Yeah, are they coming on to Amazon in this country then?
They might be, or they might not. They might not.
I thought I mentioned them on the TV minisode, so I think they're coming to Amazon.
Yeah. Are they? Oh, cool. Yeah. That'd be interesting. Because it was really hard to watch.
I think the Cloak and Dagger one is definitely coming to Amazon. I think I say definitely but after the Community faux pas that I made on the TV minisode.
Community was on there for years, so I can't really blame you for that. And so Hulu are up in the game. So
that's interesting.
It's interesting
because I'd never heard of them before you mentioned them.
It's interesting how many streaming services there are. And it was also interesting. BitTorrent tried to create their own software, own programming.
Oh,
because I think every time there's an issue in terms of illegal access, the industry always changes. And so in terms of people to stream stuff, now you can stream stuff on iTunes. People used to stream movies. Now there's Netflix. Yeah, and there's always, and so what BitTorrent were doing were they created a TV show, and their idea was they'll release for free on BitTorrent. And the free version has adverts, or you can upgrade to BitTorrent Premium, and you can watch this show advert free. And so,
a bit like Spotify,
yeah. So it's that hasn't taken off, but it would have been really interesting to see what the world would be in now if that did take off, and how many other TV shows would think, oh, okay, we'll do the same thing.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. Okay. So looking to next week, or the next episode, whenever that may be. Yeah. Ideally next week, but
what TV show have you blessed us with this week?
I think we agreed on the Netflix show. So this is one. We haven't done a Netflix one, it feels like, for a couple of weeks. Yeah. So I think we were going to do Safe.
Safe.
So I don't really know too much about this show.
Nope. I know nothing. I know nothing about it either.
No points. You know no points about it.
Yeah, I thought that was right.
Yes. All I know is that it's got the guy from Dexter in it.
Yeah.
Don't even know his name yet because I haven't made my notes.
Dexter Morgan is the character's name. Dexter.
So he seems like the star of it. I've seen an advert not on Netflix, on normal TV, like mainstream TV. Yeah. And it looks like a kind of. I was intrigued by it because I thought, is this kind of an American version of Happy Valley? So it looks like there's maybe a bit. I thought, from what I gather, a girl goes missing, and the dad, Dexter, tries to find out what's happened, and it's all based within this kind of like rich society or community, like suburb. So they're all well off, but they've got secrets, and it's trying to get to the bottom of the sort of secrets.
Like Taken. mashed with Desperate Housewives?
I don't know. That sounds
that's what I get so far.
That sounds like an amazing show. I think it's more like sort of thriller mystery based, so maybe a bit of Broadchurch vibes in there, maybe.
Yeah.
I think in my head I just want it to be like another Happy Valley because I'm such a big fan of that show.
In sunny Philadelphia, is that Happy Valley in sunny?
No, it's just called Happy Valley.
I need to look into that.
I think if there's another season that comes out, we'll definitely review it because for me, Happy Valley is one of the best TV shows out there.
Oh wow!
And it's definitely a hidden gem that I should probably talk about at some point because
it's not hidden anymore.
It's out there.
Yeah,
well, it's out there now. It's got a female writer. I can't remember her name, but it's really, really, really good. So it's about a female cop who has this kid that she looks after. She's the main character, the cop, but like all of this crime stuff starts happening. I don't want to say too much, but it's really good.
Cool.
Really well done. So a little hidden gem shout out there from a non-minisode. But yeah, Safe. Yeah, so in my head I just want it to be that show, but I have a feeling it won't be.
Who knows? Maybe.
We'll see.
Might be.
So we'll check that out.
Yeah.
And we'll give our views next week.
Yeah, hope that I'll watch one more episode of Handmaid by then, and so in the recap we can. Yeah, maybe no spoilers, but I can tell you about my feelings.
As to whether you're going to watch any more.
Yeah. So join in for them.
Yeah.
All right then. Well, thanks for listening to us. And, it's enjoy your pleasant day and enjoy your weekend. And we're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and all that shindig. So feel free to.
We need to start actually tweeting, don't we?
Yeah.
Hashtagging. Like Instagramming. We need, we should take photos of us going, "Hey, we're in the cinema."
Yeah. Maybe a thumbs up or thumbs down review. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. But yeah, so we'll
I think we should sorry. I'm going to just cut you off, but I was just going to say, we should get on that.
Yeah, we will do. All right. We love all you like
this is the
fans.
I just have to say this is like the best sign off yet.
Yeah.
Because it's possibly the worst sign off that we've done.
It's meta. We do it on purpose. So,
we're trying to be.
Right. Well, I'll enjoy your day, and we'll see you soon. All right, bye.